most businesses, especially when photography, can actually survive without a studio. I would actually recommend, especially for starting photographers, to not fall for the trap of opening up their own studio from the get-go, because if you really get to the nitty-gritty of things, you'll see that the overhead for you to maintain an actual physical photo studio is really expensive nowadays.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our very first episode of our podcast series called Photalk, where we interview a lot of freelance photographers and ask about their journey from the start until now, and we learn more about what they specialize. So today's guest is the Chief Creative Officer of TYNTA Creative's Photography and Videography. It is a rising creative studio known for its work in portrait, fashion, commercial, and pageant photography. The studio focuses on producing visually compelling images that highlight personality, style, and storytelling. Mark David Octavio has a keen eye for creative photography and visual storytelling. Mark captures powerful photos across a wide range of productions, from professional portraits and fashion editorials to commercial campaigns and pageant coverage. Through creativity, attention to detail, and a passion for visual storytelling, TYNTA Creatives continues to grow as a studio dedicated to turning moments into striking and memorable imagery. So I may formally welcome Sir Mark.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So how are you today?
I'm doing quite well. Gas prices aren't bad, but otherwise we're fine.
Yeah. So how does it feel to be where you are now with photography as your career?
Well, right now I can say that photography as a business, we are in a stage that's very exciting, but at the same time, it's a lot challenging with the advent of AI and a lot of quick changes in how people perceive and receive photography. There's a sudden upshift of what clicks to targets nowadays and how people would want their photography to be taken.
Right. Especially it's so scary with AI now, since I've seen a lot of people using it to make portraits just by a single prompt.
That's correct.
But it still has its flaws, as I can observe. So we'll do a little icebreaker. So I have a photo here on my laptop that you've taken. So it's this photo here that you've taken. This one is called Stay Still. So can you describe to me what this photo is about?
Okay. So this particular photo is actually a collaboration between me and one of my painter friends. It's Aldrin Alarcon. And our concept was to have a sort of Renaissance looking photo, but I wanted to make it a little bit more editorial. So taking on cues from some of my favorite photographers like Anna Leibovitz. So I composed this scene as though it's a very whimsical cover-esque like photo, similar to what we probably see in Vogue. Well, not really, but I tried my best. All of these are foreign models, and people are normally would be people who see this photo would actually ask me if this is actually AI, but it's actually not. It just happens to be a little bit more foreign looking, but it's actually shot here in the Philippines.
Oh, okay. That really gets to you, that if people ask you, is this actually made by AI? Actually, when people ask you that question, how do you feel inside?
Well, it really depends, but mostly when people ask how I photo edit my pictures and they assume it's AI, for me, I see it as a compliment because I try to aim for a very high quality editing style, a little bit more high fashion. I'm actually a pixel peeper. Pixel peeper meaning if you actually zoom in into the picture, you can actually see the detail. And I'm very particular about the small specks of detail on the photo that most people won't even bother to look at.
I see.
Yeah.
I can definitely tell there's a lot of details here that I can see when I just zoom in, like right now. Yeah, that's really good. This is a really nice work. So what was it like what was the feeling of being with these people and doing the actual shoot itself?
I'm used to dealing with models, and normally when we do a shoot like this, everything's pre-planned. We have this thing called pre-visualization, especially for me. I always have this saying that when I shoot something, I shoot with intent. So even before we get to the actual shooting, everything's been laid out. The costumes are there, the poses. The I normally prepare a mood board, a storyboard of what's before directing the model. So when they actually come to the set, I just direct them and just let them do their modeling, and I just do minor corrections, small adjustments to make sure that everything is in the right place. But aside from that, it's it's a very light shoot, to be honest.
Okay. So, in a nutshell, how would you describe your journey in photography industry so far?
Challenging. Right now, there's a lot of photographers, especially when it comes to commercial and fashion. Even though it's not should I say, it's not as lucrative as other forms of photography. It's what I enjoy with newer cameras and all the, let's say, all the lights and the setups being a little bit democratized. It's a lot easier for even new photographers to start creating their artwork. So you have to have your own style for you to get noticed, and that's what's been challenging.
So, when you have your own style, it'll be like some kind of, what do you call this? It's something that people can recognize just by looking at that photo. Like, oh, I know that style.
It's like a calling card per se. If you have if you've developed your own style, people will the more that people see that style, the more they'll associate it with your brand. So that's exactly what Tinta is trying to do right now, to cement our own look and a brand into photography.
Okay. All right. So now let's start off with your beginnings and background. So, what first got you interested in photography?
Well, if you're going to go way back, I've always been interested in film. I'm a big movie buff. I've watched everything from action movies to rom-coms to a Japanese drama to K-dramas even, and I always look into that for inspiration. I was a multimedia arts student before, and then I was also a student from the University of Santo Tomas as an advertising student. Really came from that. I'm the only artist in our family, but then my passion for art is really strong, and that led me to other fields other than photography. Actually, I started out as illustrator. I was an animator, an illustrator. I did some animation for toy animation. I did a lot of years as a graphic artist, and I have only come back to photography in the last year or so because there's this itch of me going back to what was one of my first loves, actually.
Since you did start out as a graphic artist before becoming a photographer, what was something that led you to make that transition?
Truth be told, I got burned out.
Ah,
Graphic artist job. It's one of those unsung heroes when it comes to the art world. I would do graphic work for a packaging company, and it would be like a nameless job, or how do you say that? It's like you don't really get recognized for it, and the hours are really long. Didn't really fulfill my need to express my creativity. So when I had the opportunity to go back to photography, that's I took my chance and said, let's try to get this back on where we started.
that's good. That's good. So, did you learn photography through formal education like here in CSB, or was it all self taught?
Actually, I did learn a few things from Benil when I was still here, because back then I won't reveal my ID number anymore. But I actually started when it was still film, so I was able to do black and white photography and actual film photography. So I did have a small background in terms of formal education, but aside from that, everything that I've known right now is self taught. I did have some mentors, which I'll not name right
It's
now,
okay.
but I did have some mentors who I've asked for more on the technical side of things. And I guess the advantage that I have is, since I am primarily a fine arts person, it's that all the all the other skills that I've learned as a graphic artist, as an illustrator, and an animator. I just transferred those skills towards photography.
Ooh.
So it was a lot easier for me transitioning from one art form to the other. Although I still am learning, I don't think there's a single photographer who could say that they've learned it all. I'm still learning as I go, but everything that I've learned from my other jobs and from my other uh, interest in terms of art, I've been trying to constantly add that to my photography. So everything from posing, from to the lighting to the color grading, I try to apply that to photography.
Okay. So you basically learned everything that you learned from graphic design classes into photography. And that's good because it shows that you can somehow make that one specialization and you can combine it with another one to make it work.
Yes, that's correct.
That's good. That's good. So when you first entered the photography industry, what expectations did you have?
From the get go, I knew it was going to be hard because at first I wanted to be a wedding photographer, to be honest, because that is one of the more lucrative aspects or niches of photography. There's always clients getting married every day, and like say for on the side of commercial and fashion, it's not as common. And so from the get go, I knew it was going to be a hard journey because weddings are difficult. And you do the 14 to 16-hour wedding days. It's especially in the Philippines. It's really, really hard.
So what were some of the biggest adjustments you had to make in the early days of your career?
I guess the biggest change would be the scheduling because when I was a graphic artist and when I was an editor, normally my weekends are free. So I would work from Monday to Friday. Then as long as I don't have any backlogs, then I'm pretty much set for the week. But ever since I went back to photography, it's the other way around. My weekends are like fully booked. Like I've been missing birthdays, I've been missing outings with friends, and all of that stuff. That's the biggest adjustment. No weekends.
Yeah, that's the sad reality that we have to sacrifice our
Yeah.
weekends because that's usually when most events would happen, right?
Yes, that's correct.
But you still take breaks on the weekdays, right?
Yes, of course, because in a photographer's life, actually, it's only two things. It's either you're shooting or you're editing. So anytime I spend at home, it's just me in front of my laptop or my desktop, and I'm just editing away.
Besides like weekend shoots and all that. So what is one lesson that you learned the hard way when you were starting out?
Choosing the right gear.
The right gear.
Yeah, there's a lot of things in photography that you might spend and think that you need them early on, only to realize that you don't really need all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and photography is expensive.
True.
So knowing what gear that you really need and what you don't need is something that I've learned in the hard way.
So your work focuses on fashion, conceptual, and commercial photography. So why did you choose those niches?
Again, growing up, I was exposed pretty early on fashion because my mom was a big collector of those fashion magazines. So even at an early age, I was already viewing the pages of Vogue, Cosmopolitan, Bazaar, and all of those other fashion magazines. And again, from my painting background, so they're kind of similar. So without me even knowing, it's like my visual library. Getting exposed to that early on is what probably led me into having that eye for, or at least the liking for commercial photography. And I guess in terms of the different kinds of photography, commercial, fashion, and conceptual photography is what allows me to really create. I'm less of an event photographer and more of coming from my illustration background. I'm more akin to creating an image from my head. So even before I start shooting, I do normally conceptualize what I want to come out as my final image, even before I shoot. So that's how my brain kind of works.
Out of those niches, which would you say would be your most favorite to do?
I guess budgets aside, it would be conceptual. I really do have a lot of concepts in mind that I would want to shoot, although those tend to be really costly because you have to hire for the model. And whenever I do concept shoots like this, I'm the one. I kind of do everything. I do the research on the fabrics. I do the designs of the clothes, or at least I source the clothes out. And then for the models and the makeup, I really choose models and makeup artists that sort of have that look that I'm looking for. So I guess of all those niches, it's really conceptual photography that I love. For that specific niche of photography, you really need to have a strong portfolio. So before even looking for clients, you really need to invest your time, your money, and contacts. You need to do a lot of groundwork, because when it comes to conceptual photography or commercial photography, they really rely on the body of work. So you have to create that early on. You have to get as much of your work done even before you go looking for clients, because in photography, unlike other, let's say, other business ventures or other jobs, it really is your portfolio. That is the be all and almost the be all and end all. Of course, there is the side wherein are you okay in terms of being flexible to work with? Are you respectful to your clients? Are you a good communicator when it comes to your models and everything? But at the end of the day, it really boils down to your portfolio. So I'm a believer, as long as you have good work, uh, people and clients will eventually find you. So my advice would be to really create a strong body of work, get it out there, and then as much as possible, just try to get as much eyes on your work, and then just that's it.
What would you recommend to someone on how they should approach their portfolio?
First of all, for you to create your portfolio, you need to know what kind of photography you're into. Let's say, for example, you are into commercial work. There are different aspects of commercial work. There's the beauty, and let's say, for example, there's the beauty and spa industry. There's the product photography. In the product photography, and you can be specifically for, let's say, wine bottles or actual products that they sell online. So I think you have to choose one of those first, choose one lane first, and just try to do as much of that. And then you can later on you can just expand and add on to your portfolio. But I believe that having a good set of specific series of work towards one kind of photography is a lot better.
So basically, with your portfolio, it's basically your branding to yourself, right?
Yes. I believe that as a photographer, branding is very, very important, because in a sea of photographers, you have to stand out. So having creating whether you're a freelancer or a business owner, having that personal touch or that look that your studio has is what will make clients choose you over the other. So I think that's very, very important.
Okay, so let's head back to your niches for fashion, conceptual, and commercial photography. What kind of equipment would you recommend for those that are interested in these shoots?
Personally, I'm a strobist. I do use a lot of strobe lights. Since I do a lot of commercial work right now, I'm actually using, just to be more specific, I'm actually using a Sony A7R5, and my lights, I use a mixture of nanlite lights and Godox, because I love the Godox 80 line because they're very portable. One of the strengths of our studio is that all of our lights are nearly 100% portable. So we can shoot outdoor, we can shoot indoor, we can make a setup directly at your location. So actually, I think that's what allows us to get more clients, is that we're flexible. We can practically shoot anywhere. So if I am going to recommend any gear or something that commercial photographers should look into, it's really lighting.
Mm.
And, it's not unusual for me to light a scene with maybe 6 or 8 lights. It depends on how big the location is. I think the most that I've done for commercial work, which in I took off campaign for a hotel, is I've used like eight lights just to light up the
Wait,
entire
80?
eight
80?
eight eight
Oh,
lights.
8.
Eight is too much.
Sorry, I
Yeah.
misheard
Yeah,
you.
so I had 8 lights just to cover the entire the ballroom and parts of the restaurant. So it's like 8 lights. So,
Okay. How about for lenses and body, camera body?
again, I'm a Sony fan. So everything in our studio, everything from our video cameras to our still photo cameras are all Sony. We're right now our studio uses the A7R5s for photo, and then for video and general work, we're now using the new A7 V. And then I'm a big fan of the 85. We use 85 1.4s from Sigma, and actually all our lenses are actually from Sigma, and that's I'm a big fan of the 85.
I see. Okay. I've heard of this before. Is that when a client is choosing a wedding photographer, they would always look at the brand of the camera. And I heard that most of the clients would prefer those that have Sony rather than Canon, Fujifilm. Is that true for weddings or
Okay,
any events?
hot take. Okay, so at the end of the day, actually, it doesn't really matter for me. The camera brand doesn't matter. It only matters to the user. Uh, what you get out of your camera is what you go for in a brand. For me, most of my friends who are actually wedding photographers, because I am part of a shout out to the wedding and party photographers of the Philippines, the WPPP number one. So most of them are actually Fujifilm users, because they like that out of the straight out of camera look, because it's very light and it's very clean and airy. But in the Philippines, Sony as a brand is actually really strong, because a lot of freelance photographers prefer to use Sony. And I believe that part of the reason why Sony is strong in the Philippines is that on the video side of things, it's it's easier to color match. It's easier for studios to hire freelance photographers who use Sony. There is this big advantage of having an entire team using the same brand, because you can when it comes to events, especially weddings, things can go wrong.
Yeah.
So the ability to let one of your teammates use the same lens, the same triggers, the same equipment all throughout the team is very useful. And that's probably one of the biggest reasons why most people really go for Sony, at least in the Philippines.
Oh, I thought it was Canon for the Philippines. But okay. I understand now that it's mostly gonna be Sony.
Yes.
All right. So what about, let's say that the photographer's new and he's on a tight budget. What would you recommend for those that are on a strict budget?
If you're just starting out in photography, you don't actually need to go for anything that's full frame. At the end of the day, the best gear that you can use is the gear that you have with you right now. So even if you start with a crop sensor, from any brand actually is good, because nowadays I believe that when it comes to the technology of still photos, most cameras have reached their peak. I think the technology for still photos, it's at the place where the improvements of the camera and the technology is very little. If you've noticed, all the brands are just about image stabilization. It's all about just having a better megapixels. But aside from that, there's no real big changes, or there's no real big leaps when it comes to still photography. So I think that all of the brands right now are actually a bit on par with each other. So it really doesn't matter. What matters most is, there's the saying, right? They're saying that it's not the gear, it's the photographer.
Yeah.
When you're starting out, that's really true. You have to reach, for me, I believe that you have to reach a certain point way high in your photography career for you have to reach that part before the gear matters.
So, do you think photographers should focus on one niche or should they try to be versatile?
When it comes to that, I guess it depends on the photographer. There is a distinct advantage if you are able to shoot a lot of things, if you are more versatile. But I've actually known photographers who really stick to just one style of photography, and they build their entire career towards it. So it's really dependent on what the photographer is capable of, or rather is interested in doing. I don't think there's a wrong or right answer when it comes to that. But
Could you tell us about TYNTA Creatives? So, how did that business start?
it actually started from the name itself. I've had that name ever since I was in senior high school, to be honest. So it started from there because I've always really wanted to get into advertising. So even the name, the Tinta Creatives, the things you've never thought about, was based on the idea that if we were going to establish an advertising agency or something, a studio that would uh, do a lot of different weird, weird artistic things, and I just felt that that's a part of me that I wanted to retain, even when I was even when I was older. So everything came from that name itself. That I want. That's an expression of who I am as an artist, actually.
Okay. So, can you expand more on your role in the business?
Uh, so I'm basically just a chief creative officer. I do have other photographers working for me, and I do hire other freelancers as well. But when it comes to maintaining the visual look, I mean the what do you call it, it's the signature look of the studio, that really falls on me, and I try to. When I do ask my other photographers to shoot for us, I they do tend to shoot a bit similar to how I do it, because I most of the photographers I hire are do work actually under me directly. So we try to I tend to influence the way they shoot.
Okay. So, what is something that you find difficult when it comes to running a business like this, a creative business?
I guess it's more on the pricing. The margins for profit when it comes to photography varies very differently. Uh, High-end photographers, especially the ones who have been in the industry for maybe 20, 30 years, are able to really charge a lot. And that's not necessarily something that you can apply to all of the clients in the Philippines. So there's a lot of negotiation that comes with booking clients, especially in our field. We don't really have a set amount. It really is project dependent. So that is a bit challenging, and that's something that we still constantly try to develop and try to understand the how we can better leverage, or how we can take into account everything that goes into photography, because they fail to see how to allocate for small funds, like the maintenance of the gear. You have to take into account all of the studio's costs, and that's, I think, where most photographers, they need to be educated a little bit more on how to handle a business when it comes to how much they charge for the service. That's something that we can work on more.
So, what would be your advice to someone that a freelance photographer that doesn't have a business, he's just working on his own? So, what would your recommendation be to price yourself?
Oh, well, first, you have to be honest with yourself when it comes to your skill level. Of course, with the you have to manage the client expectations, and as well as your own skill level as a photographer. You can only charge as much as the client is willing to pay. If you're starting out, my only real advice is you need to account for really your gear. Um, One of the pitfalls that I see that newer photographers fall for is they try to compete in price. They try to lower their prices just to get the client, without really realizing that they're actually, not only are they gi- uh, sort of this giving themselves a sort of disservice, but they're actually affecting the industry because people who see their prices assume that these are the prices that should be standard for photographers, or especially for freelance work. I think that's a real problem that photographers are facing now because the again with cameras being a lot more accessible to people right now, with the advent of social media and the need for more photographers, newer freelance photographers tend to charge a lot less than they're supposed to be charging. And the pitfalls of that is later on when they do advance in their careers and they do want to increase their price because they feel that they have reached that sense of what do you call this, that proficiency in their skill, then they face the same problem that they say they face the same problem that they created for photographers who were better than them when they were starting out. Now they have to compete with the people who are pricing way lower than what's supposed to be charged. And I think that's a problem that needs to be addressed by the community of photographers in general, right? So I guess again, just go back to the question. It's more of like you have to be honest with yourself and how good you are. I honestly feel that if you yourself as a photographer don't aren't confident enough that your skills can charge for a certain amount, then perhaps it's probably better for you to even not charge for a job and just use that as a way for you to get better, because at least the expectations of the client is also matching to what you're offering. Since you're doing it for free, it might actually be better, because the moment that you charge a client, there's a set of expectations that need to be met. And that goes around to the industry's pricing for photography work to be affected by the perception of this is your skill level and this is how much you should charge. So I think those go hand in hand, and there has to be like a safe middle ground for photographers for us to continue the business.
Yeah, this is why we're doing this podcast here, so that we can inform those out there that the proper pricing has to be met, right?
Yes, that's definitely.
More generally, how can someone start doing freelance photography, especially if they don't have many clients yet?
Let's give three concrete examples of what a new photographer can do to land clients. First, you can always try to apply or at least try to work with existing studios. Normally, studios really do hire either a freelance shooter if they need more people to shoot for them, or there are actually some studios that offer newer photographers to be their personal assistants or PAs. And that actually is one of the best advice that I can give newer photographers. Learning on the job, learning under a more seasoned photographer is really one of the best ways to get into the industry. Not only do you get paid for it, but you also really you see real world dynamics on how shoots work. Because to be honest, especially when it comes to commercial work, the shooting part is a very, very small part of your work. Maybe around 20% this actually goes to the shooting part. But most of the things that happen behind the shoot and after the shoot, that's where it gets really, really tedious. So everything from pre-planning on how to set up the lights. Even when we were setting up your podcast today, we've seen that there are a lot of technical difficulties that every shooter, every studio will go through. And being surrounded by people who have experience on how to troubleshoot situations in a shoot is something that a new photographer will really benefit from. And then the second one would be they can actually approach small businesses, start from the small businesses, and expect and just match your talent fee to what you think that the client can pay for, and then just try to give out the best out, regardless of how much they are actually paying. It's a good practice as a photographer to still give the best quality of work that you can give, regardless if it's a low paying job or it's a high paying job. Because at the end of the day, not only are you able to use that as for your portfolio for future works, but it also develops the discipline that you need to be in a very competitive field, in a very competitive business. And then finally, I guess for you to get clients, it's just really social media. Let's face it, I don't think there's a business right now, especially in photography, wherein you can survive without taking full advantage of social media. I mean, it's a double-edged sword wherein photography now is more in demand because of social media. Right. So it goes to follow that, of course, for you also to be selected, or for you to make the most out of your business, it's you need to also use the platform which is looking for photographers. So everything from TikTok to Facebook to Instagram, I that's one way for you to really promote your work. So I start from there, I guess.
Yeah, we must take advantage of our current times right now. Now that everything, information has become more and more accessible now.
Most businesses, especially when photography, can actually survive without a studio. I would actually recommend, especially for starting photographers, to not fall for the trap of opening up their own studio from the get-go, because if you really get to the nitty-gritty of things, you'll see that the overhead for you to maintain an actual physical photo studio is really expensive nowadays. So that is something to consider, that you should only get into studio photography, or at least red auto photography, if you believe that you have developed or you have a small following already. Again, going back to social media, wherein you can sort of gamble and say that, okay, I think I'm ready to have a studio. Yeah.
Yeah, life is a gamble sometimes. Because you are with Tinta Creatives, and you also have, you also have your personal life and your creative life where you want to do some things for just for the sake of wanting to do creative things. How do you balance the creative side of photography with your business side?
I guess it's cliche, but the saying wherein if you like what you're doing, you're not really doing work. Like if what you're doing is what if you're doing what you love, rather, is also your means of income, it doesn't really feel like work. So when it comes to balancing, regardless if I'm actually taking a photo or not, the my brain normally just really comes up with concepts that I want to shoot this. If I just walk through a grocery store, and I see a nice, let's say, a nice packaging of a product, and my brain automatically goes to, how can I shoot a model with that product, or how can, if I were to create a new ad for this let's say cereal or whatever, uh, how can I make it different? So when it comes to balancing work and personal life, there's no real line, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's like I'm constantly thinking of what to shoot. I take inspiration from everything, from music, from music, from films, from other photographers, or even just stories, political stories, or whatever that I think that I can express through photography. So there is really no, for me, there's no line between work and art or personal life. It's just one whole big big thing together.
Every day is an inspiration, am I right? So, what does a typical workday look like for you as a photographer? It can either be when you're working with Tinta, or if you're doing it without Tinta.
Okay, so a typical day for me, would really just to check my schedule for the entire week, because I need to be aware of our turnaround cycles. Um, Normally we do normally bring out our works anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks on the average, if it's not a big campaign. So first I need to check my schedule for the entire week, just to make sure that nothing gets delivered late, or we don't forget anything, we don't miss a shoot, especially a shoot. And then once we have that figured out, if there's no shoot that we have for that week, we just I normally discuss this with our marketing, which is my wife. We just come up with what our next shoot should be. Like for now, what we're our next project should be a conceptual shoot about a bit of a Japanese rock star look. So for our concept photo, so it for example, that would be our itinerary for the week, and then we'll start to make our storyboard. We'll try to get all of the materials that we need for that kind of shoot. Mm-hmm. So everything from the clothes to the props, and then there's the study for the lighting. After we figure out what we want to shoot and how what our model would look like rather, then that's when we go to to the details as how are we supposed to light this, where are we supposed to shoot this. So that's how it typically goes if we don't have a shoot. But if we do have a previous shoot, then most of the weekday is really about editing. It's really how we normally do things is that it's actually a month or so in advance, especially when it comes to the material that we release on social media. We've normally shot things way back, but we only post them like a few months later just to make sure that we always have something for the page. But we're constantly editing works when we're not planning our next shoot.
I see. In your experience, have you ever experienced difficulty with the shoot or difficulty handling a client? And how were you able to handle those situations?
Having difficult clients is part of the job. Again, the shooting aspect of photography, especially when commercial work, is again very minimal. You'll spend most of the time negotiating their prices. There's a back and forth between the creativity between the photographer and sometimes the creative director. Depends on how open they are into your suggestions or to your style of photography. There is a way on how to communicate what you want to come out as your final product, and I think that's something that all photographers need to develop. And difficulties aside from that, personally, I don't have a lot of issues, or I didn't really have a lot of issues when it comes to dealing with difficult clients, because I tend to be level-headed when it comes to dealing with them. It's actually more than the pre-planning that's actually a bit harder for us, because we never agree to a project wherein we know we can't deliver. So that's our first step. Whenever we do try to get a client, we try to figure out first if we can actually shoot the project, and we make sure that all the concerns prior to shooting should be handled before the shoot.
How about a time where you dealt with a client that is like so toxic that it got to your nerves on their attitude or how they're treating the shoot itself?
Well, there is a fine line between the client is the client, but also as a photographer, you need to establish yourself as wherein you say to your client when they're being difficult, wherein you say, well, I'm the professional here. You hired me as the photographer, so therefore you are entrusting me with what I can do. So there also needs to be a sort of time where the photographer needs to put their foot down and say, of course in a politeful way, that this is I believe this is what's best for your product. Again, there is a back and forth always when it comes to that, but again, you have to, as a photographer, it's not enough that you're just shooting. You have to take command of the shoot. No, normally the clients who become difficult are the ones who doubt actually your experience or your ability to make the shoot. I've witnessed this when I was starting out, when I obviously wasn't good enough to project as the confidence that you should have when you're a photographer. And honestly, that's something that clients they can figure it out. They can smell it from a mile away. If you're not confident with what you're doing, if you're acting as though you don't know what you're actually doing, that's actually when they become more toxic because they can feel that, okay, you're not doing things right. But if you're the type of photographer wherein all of your moves in the set is deliberate and you can actually problem solve quickly, again, in any shoot, there's always going to be technical difficulties or whatnot. If you can actually show the client that you're actually capable of handling whatever situation that comes to you, then I think any toxic client will just say, "Hey, this guy knows what they're doing. I should just step back." So I think that's part of it. It's really up to the photographer to set the mood, set the stage.
How do you stay motivated during the slow seasons and keep the business going?
Photography is one of those businesses wherein our way of de-stressing is actually still shooting. If you know what I mean,
Yeah.
right? The way that photographers like decompress is actually to shoot more. And I guess just shooting what you love, it may be a subgenre that you don't necessarily shoot for business, but it's something that you also like shooting. So that's something that the photographers can actually do during their downtime when there's not a lot of clients. They can try to explore other niches.
How have you adapted to industry changes, especially with the rise of AI that's happening right now?
I embrace it.
Embrace it.
Yeah, I embrace because I'm a believer of if you don't adopt to what is currently in front of you, then you're going to be left behind. I mean, people are. I understand the concern for AI, but there are when it comes to photography, there are certain things that AI simply just can't replace. I mean, who wants to have a wedding picture of you made by Nano Banana, right? I mean, weddings and events, important events are still going to be handled by real photographers.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to the advertising side, it's just about how you use AI. I mean, why would you be afraid of technology that will actually help you communicate your photo shoot to your client even before you do the shoot? I mean, you can simply type a prompt of what you want, more or less, the shoot would look like. You can present that to the client. That takes less effort because not every client has a very what they call this a very imaginative mind. They may need to have like more visual aids for them to agree and see what you're trying to convey with your photography even before the shoot happens. So for me, there's a lot of application for AI wherein photographers just need to see it differently. They need to not see it not as the enemy, but more of a tool that they can actually help to improve their work. I mean, let's be honest. When I was starting out, again, I started out in film. Back then, what was out there was Photoshop, 5.0 or something like back then people who were using Photoshop were getting backlash from traditional photographers saying that if you use Photoshop or any photo editing tool, then you're not a real photographer. But nowadays, if you don't know how to use Lightroom, Photoshop, Capture One, or any of those AI tools that help you edit, then right now you're not a real. People are saying that you're not a real photographer and that you're not versed enough in all of those programs. So it's just really about adaptation. It's about how you use these tools. I mean, it's there. There's no use in trying to fight AI. It's there. So what do you do with AI there? Use it to your leverage instead of seeing it as something that you need to fight.
Right. I know that there can be companies that will take advantage of AI and they might require their employees to use it. Well, you know what they say, if you can't beat them, join them. So we're down to the last question now. So what advice would you give to aspiring photographers today? Like one advice.
One advice. Know your worth. I cannot stress enough how much the financial side of photography is needed or is important to photography. You can't enjoy, whether you're a serious enthusiast or a new freelance photographer, or you're an aspiring business owner, you have to keep the financial aspect in mind all the time, because you can't in you if no matter how much you love what you're doing, at the end of the day you need to pay your bills, and it's very hard for you to be enjoying or improving your skills if you don't have the financial capacity to maintain your growth, right? So the better you are, the more you get better with your photography skills, the more that you would want to have certain equipment for your art to have a better output, right? So I think that's something that all photographers should always keep in mind. So again, especially for newer photographers, know the business, know the economy behind the photography. Don't drag the entire industry down uh making all your prices low just to compete for your clients. That's really the best advice that I can give for new photographers and for the photography business, or rather the photography industry in general. Know your worth.
Mm, that's some lovely advice. And I'd like to thank you again so much for being here to be featured in Photalk. We
Thank
have
you for
reached the
inviting
end.
me. It's been
You're
fun.
welcome. So, how do you feel now that we reached the end?
For me, it's very inspiring to see a lot of new photographers into trying to enter the business right now. Because again, I've been to this very school, and it's very refreshing to see a lot of new people that are interested in photography. It takes me aback.
Yeah, yeah. So we have reached the very end of our podcast, and I'd like again to thank Sir Mark for being here. Check out his studio, TYNTA Creatives. Very lovely pictures that are there. And as always, stay tuned for the next episode. See ya!
Bye.